Sanibonani, welcome back to another episode of Hearty Thursdays. Ngumama wezizwe Sibia, and I'm here to fill your hearts with art. In this podcast, we talk about art. We talk to the people that make the art, the people behind the people that make the art, and the people that make the art, but a lot of people don't know that they do. And today, we are so honored to have Mr. Tshepo Ratona in the house. Welcome to Hearty Thursdays. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It really, really, really means a lot. Are you well?
I'm good. How are you doing?
The first question, obviously, please tell me about you, your background, where were you born?
Wow, I forget that this is where people start. But yeah, I'm from Mafikeng. Was born in a very small village called Tshepo in the northwest. So that's where I was born and bred, did my schooling there, went to R.A. Kobe High School, and then I moved to town, to Mafikeng, the actual town, when I went to study the performing arts at Mabana Arts Center.
Okay.
So that's basically how I started the arts. That was in 2008. Yes.
I was in grade 2.
Of course.
So, being born in a village, how do you then come across or come to experience the art? Like for you to eventually move to town and go and do performing arts?
Well, it's a crazy story. So I went to I had a friend who was very good at drawing. He was a fine artist, and he was going to register at Mabana, Mabatu. So I had just accompanied him, and obviously, where I am from, when you're done with matric, you sort of, start to look for a job. We're not really, or the prospects of going to universities are, slim to none. But so I'm with him when he goes to do this registration, and I come across their pamphlet for drama. And at that time, it looked like, even if they say we're poor, this is one thing I can afford to enroll on. And, this is something I can take to my mother and say, but we can try this, because their registration fee was like 20 rands.
Oh.
And their school fees was 80 rands a month. So I thought, let's try this and see. This is something I can afford. Let's see what happens to it. But obviously, then you realize in retrospect that this is something you're called onto. This vibes with you. This is your thing. This is what you were born to do, and the rest, I guess, it's history. Never look back from there. But I had just gone there by that mistake.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like I feel like it's things like that make me to realize that nothing happens by mistake.
Yeah,
because he could have gone alone. He could have asked his brother or mother or sister to accompany him, but it was you who was there. Oh wow. And then when did you start writing?
I started writing when I arrived in Pretoria. So I started out as an actor at Mabana, and then we had come to the State Theatre under a festival called the 52 Seasons. I don't even know if it was a festival, but we were part of that with our end-of-year production as a school. So that was the first time we performed at the State Theatre, and I met some people there. We mingled. And the following year, because we were done with schooling, they called me. I think Stephen, this guy who was a freelance director, so he was doing a lot of projects. So I became a part of that, and then I joined his company. And that's when I started to experiment with writing, but I wasn't doing it seriously. But when I got home, like I lived in Sunnyside, so when I got home, every time I would just sit down, write about the experiences in class, the experiences when we were doing these experiments in the space. So I started writing there vaguely, and I met, in my trips to the State Theatre daily, I met Ayanda Stebe, who then, took an interest in me. He was an agent at the time, and I started attending classes at the company he used to work for. It was called Youth in Trust. So I started attending classes there. And I remember I wrote a scene, showed it to him, seemed to love it. And, I just started writing now because there was this positive feedback from people. So I started writing every day in class, sharing my scripts and whatever. And 2 years later, I was then a facilitator in the same company, and I was writing my plays, and we were staging them with that company. And that's when I was discovered by the State Theatre now as that's a house. Mpumelelo Paul Grootboom was a resident director there. You know, I invited me to be part of the Youth Expressions Festival. That's when I did my first play, sort of mainstreamish. And yeah, and ever since I've been writing, directing. Yeah.
It's been a journey.
Okay. Yeah.
It's been a journey. When did you start directing and producing?
So I was doing them, excuse me, I was doing them, you know, uh, what's the word? At the same time. I was doing all three at the same. So when I started writing,
Yes.
then there would be a need for me to produce the
Yes.
work, to direct it. So I never really left the other and started. When I started writing, I started producing and directing at the same time because I became a member of the company. I became part of the board. So all fundings that we required, I used to source funding. I used to get actors. So I just started
You had to
producing
learn
from
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had to learn everything from that company, and that's and when I met Paul as well, it's been the same thing. I When he invited me to come and stage a production at the Youth Expressions Festival, it was a partnership between me and the State Theatre, so I was producing still then.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And then how was the transition, or was it any different, like because you're writing for theater and then now you're getting a chance to or opportunities to write for TV?
Yes,
Like
yes.
you're writing for Zalo, you're writing for Jovijo. How is
Yeah.
it any different, or was it just the same experience?
Well, it's different and a bit more difficult when you're starting out. So I know Hori when I started at Uzalo, which was, when you think about it, too big a start for me because it's a very big soapy, and
Yes.
I had not learned. And soapies have very limited time for you to write, so there's no redrafting, there's no second draft. You just have to produce one good script within the 3 days or 4 days if you like. Yeah, so sometimes it's way less. So that's when I started, and I think realizing from that job, I got a lot of negative feedback, and I realized, all right, there's still so much to learn about
Yes.
writing for TV. So in television is a medium where people write in pictures, and in theater we can describe things as elaborate as we can.
Yes.
So to really separate those two has been a difficult journey for me. So I've lost some jobs because some scripts were just not happening, but I've also gotten certain jobs because my skill in writing for theater sometimes help
Yes.
concept-wise, sometimes helps the story when I'm writing for television. So I find the balance, but it was a very difficult transition
Yeah.
to
Oh
start
wow.
writing in images when you're used to writing every word that comes to mind. Yeah.
I can only imagine. And also when you're writing for TV, they have a certain thing that they want.
Yes.
You're not just writing a play from scratch. You're not just
Absolutely.
letting your creative.
There's a different format. There's you're writing based on a brief.
Yes.
So you have to sort of be as close as possible to what the storyliners want, to what the head writer wants to achieve with your particular episode. But what helps is that we have story rooms, so we'll sit in a story room, brainstorm, sit with the storyliners, the executive producer, as well as the editing commissioner, to really just make sure that when we go and write, we are sort of in the same path, we have the same journey. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it helps that you're writing on someone else's beat sheet, because it's different from having to sit down and come up with everything
Yes.
on your own.
Oh,
So
wow.
story rooms help in that sense.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And I like how you mentioned like you got positive feedback and you also got negative feedback.
Yes.
And I feel like as people we always expect to just get positive feedback and just go forward, but it doesn't work
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, it's naturally we all want to hear how great our work is.
Yes.
But I guess when you take criticism, it just goes to it's vice versa. When people compliment you, that you should take to the heart. When people criticize you, that should go to the head.
Yes.
Then you will never find yourself conflicted. You will always know how the work has to be critiqued.
Yes.
And you develop a thick skin as you grow. And, yeah.
Oh, wow. And that's how we learn, because like when you create something, to you it's just, it's perfect, it's great, I've
Absolutely,
created this piece,
absolutely.
I can stage it. But then when other people look at it, they're like, nah, actually not really.
Yeah.
Please take me through the journey of Nomcebo, which was premiered at the Durban International Film Festival.
Yeah, I did that film in 2018. So the NFVF had a project
Yes.
or a program where they were developing young directors and writers. So there were 10 writers, 10 directors. So I know how the writing phase started before we came in as directors. And so out of those 10 scripts, we had to read all of them and develop a pitch and choose which one you would like to direct and why. And so we would battle for those scripts as 10 directors, and eventually one will end up with Nomcebo then, which I really liked the concept of, and I liked the writer at the time. I thought she had a very strong voice. So I was glad to have chosen that script. And obviously then we started developing it further with the writer. She was very open to a discussion, feedbacks, and we were mentored by a very good director, Adze, who has been directing in Isibaya for at BOM in general for a couple of years. So there was a lot of things that I learned from him in terms of directing now for screen. Which, I had always been intimidated by just how many people it takes to shoot
One thing, yeah.
anything television.
Yes.
So I always wondered, how on earth will I ever be able to control such a large number of people? But when I was done with that project, it sort of killed that fear. So now I know everyone is just there doing their job.
Yes.
Doing their job. So we went to shoot that film in Devon. We had 3 days to shoot that film. It was intense. I had about like 45 scenes that I had to shoot in 3 days.
How long was it?
We ended with about 45 minutes, and then
In 3 days?
Yeah. It was
Including
crazy.
editing in 3 days?
No. The editing will then come later.
Okay.
But to shoot the actual film, you had to do it in 3 days. And it's different location. It was a nightmare, but we pulled it through. It was a very good crew. Yeah. Sanele was the DOP there, and also, from that project, I also learned that beautiful relationship between the cinematographer and the director.
Yes.
So yeah, and we shot it, and we came back to Joburg. That's where I edited the film with Edgar Sbia was one of the editors. We put it together. So we had to really edit it down from 45 minutes to about 25 minutes, because that's what they wanted. And yeah, so it was a very difficult which scene to choose. And but you accept as a writer or as a producer's cut that they're gonna take, and somehow you'll be persuaded to fall into it because they know where they're taking the film.
Yes.
And yeah, it was selected into the Durban International Festival. So because a film like this went straight, we had a deal with the SABC. So a film like this couldn't go to many different festivals because it had to go into television directly. So from Durban, it went straight to SABC One, and yeah.
Oh wow, that must have been like a very interesting point or part of your journey.
It was. I met a lot of young, talented people in Durban. I saw that people have really created an industry in KZN, and it's functional. You can get actors, you can get producers, you can get writers. There's a full-on industry in Durban, and that was something, if I want to shoot something else, I really want to go back to KZN and shoot something there.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I was writing something now, which had just premiered on on Mzansi Magic Sunday at 8. I don't know if you guys watch Uzulu Nomhlaba, but I was one of the storyliners there and a writer. Yeah, so I'm also interested to hear what people think of the work, and I didn't finish the project to the end, but I was a part of it. And it would be really interesting to hear what people think of the
I'll check it out.
production.
I don't have a
Yes.
TV where I stay. I'll
No, you
check
should
it
check
out.
it
I'll,
out.
I'll definitely check it out because I have a
Cool.
DSTV on my phone.
Yeah.
Please tell me about the musical Taking Back the Future.
Yeah. That was produced by Mr. Skudla in Pretoria. He called, we worked with Presley High, and Presley and I had always wanted to work together. We met at the State Theatre. He was coming to see my productions and really thought I had an interesting voice. So when he was given that task to create that musical, it was initially aimed at, the homeless people who live in the streets of Joburg, like what their life is, what wanted to find reasons as to why do people choose or why people end up, especially young people of late. It's a lot of young people. So Mr. Gutler then wanted us to create a script and tour around the country with that. And when Presley called me, we started writing it. We had about 4 or 5 drafts, and then we presented it in Mafikeng in Mabana. And it had a lot of had a good cast. We had Tshepo there, who was very talented. We had Zenzo Ngowe, we had Chuck Sisana, we had Somo Modise. These were, one of the big names that one wanted to really work with and explore something with. It was a very good musical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's-
So, yeah, it premiered in Mafikeng, and then it was meant, it's still meant to come back and tour around. But we're just waiting to hear what the producer thinks now. Like,
Yeah,
let's
we'd,
still wait
we'd
for
love
it.
to see it. I hope it's
Yeah.
like when it gets to the side, yeah, we'd love to see it. And how is it like being an assistant director, Gui Marikana, the musical?
Yeah, it was, it was the first time I had worked with Mr. Skavi. And this is, look, I'm from a very informal world in terms of how I practice art.
Yes.
And he's a very formal person. And I guess he taught me those formalities of working with certain actors. What's a strict schedule. Like, things became very formal when I worked with him. I had to schedule the actors. Some of them are shooting, some of them are doing this. So we would get about 3 hours in a day with a particular actor. We had to make it count. So you learn to direct something that's scattered, and then you'll bring it together later because people are not available at the same time. So it was it was a serious learning curve. And I also learned from Bo Mackenzie Matume, from Brazil, how people really score from the beginning. How do we create a list of songs, and we know what the story is about. We know what what the grievances were. We went even to the copy at some point to really just source the mood and the spirit of that story. And I started creating the music first in about 3 weeks. And
wow.
then Taborapo came in, started choreographing. And then every time Kabi comes in, he just puts them together in a very chilled way. It would take about 3 hours just putting them together. Every time when we started, the mistake we used to make was everything was big song and dance, and he would come in and always remind us of, guys, it's a very morbid story, so you just bring it together, and people move as a union. And it was a very interesting learning curve. And I also realized how, man, he really taught me like a serious professional relationship between an actor and a director. I think I took that a lot from that musical.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Tell me about, I will probably get this word wrong. Please correct me. I think it's Strong Four. What is it?
Throngful.
Yes.
Throngful.
Please tell me about it.
Means-
Because it was a part of the 3 operas that were directed by yourself, Marcus
Yeah.
Disando, and
Yeah.
Rodonas. Yeah.
Yeah, Throngful was written by someone who was very inspirational. There was an Afrikaner guy called Breitenbach. So he somehow found himself on death row because he was very anti-apartheid. He was an activist. So he even at some point, associated himself from Afrikaners, like that world. He had phrases from interview where he said he was not an African anymore. He was a very sympathetic person towards the plight of black people who were getting hanged in there. So that's when he wrote the libretto. And when I read it, I really enjoyed it. And it was scored by Martin Ward. We created the opera for it. And because in the State Theatre a while ago, I had met Marcus De Sando, who's also been my mentor, in just administration in our Toran organization. So he called me to come and direct that particular opera, and I really loved reading. When I read it, I had known about Breitenberg, but when I read that libretto, I thought, this is amazing. This is something I want to do. And these were the first 3 operas, South African operas, that were staged at Soweto Theatre. And we also staged it at the opera in the State Theatre. So yeah, I worked with a lot of amazing people there. There was Graham Scott, who was a conductor, who really built a bridge between me and that very huge orchestra. That if you know an orchestra, there's a lot of egos in the orchestra. Every time the rehearsal ends at 3 o'clock, they start packing, no questions asked. So it was a very strange working relationship between me as a director, the conductor, and then the orchestra. It felt like it had a lot of centers of power. But it was amazing. It was an amazing thing to learn and really know how to piece it together, to bring these people together. But yeah, so that's how I got into those 3 operas.
Oh wow! And
Yes.
did Tin Town start as a opera theater before it staged plays?
Yes. It when the company was called Black Tie Ensemble. When they moved to Joburg, they went into that space. So they had built that little stage for their opera concerts, and we started. We had chairs in there at first, like black chairs. We didn't have those rigged-in chairs. So it was an opera house. And when they closed down, unfortunately, the company closed down. And when they closed down, Marcus called me and thought, hey, let's turn that into a theater and just start operating it as a full-on theater. And I couldn't agree more with him. And we started building it. We got the chairs from the State Theatre when they were renovating one of their old houses. So we brought them here, drilled them in. I started buying lights and one by one. So we started getting things from other theaters, just asking for donations of cables until we really had a functional theater that we
Oh
can
wow!
do
And
work with.
today it is like staging plays, and it is it's really amazing what you guys have
It's
done.
one of the mainstream theaters now in Joburg.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, and I take that because we were, in the 2022 season, 2020, 2021, 2022, because then our ladies squeezed those years together. But to get recognition from them
Yes.
really solidified that we are a mainstream theater, because we are competing with the other theaters that are mainstream,
have
like
been
the
around
Joburg
for a very
Theater,
long
the Soweto
time,
Theater,
yes.
the Market Theater, the State Theater. So it was a turning point for all of us at the Tin Town when that happened.
Oh wow! And then how is it different directing an opera and directing a play?
Uh, it's not different really. It's because they're all staged, and you just have to develop a visual concept on what you want to achieve with the story. So as long as you understand the story, whether people are singing it, whether there's a chorus, whether there's this, but as long as you understand the story and the kind of images you want to build as a director, it's really more or less the same.
Oh, wow. You've been a part of quite a few operas. Can you sing?
No, I can't. I can't even read music. So
For real?
yes.
I can't as
So,
well.
so I rely on librettos when I'm directing, but sometimes I can, you know, we develop a special relationship with the conductor, so I just get the sense of what the music is really where the music is really trying to go. So, but I cannot read music. I cannot sing.
Oh wow! Please tell me about interracial.
Interracial. That was one of the first productions that I had directed and not written. So, in fact, when we did that trip from Mabana as students, the first play we saw was interracial. It was good. It was amazing. I remember being thoroughly moved by what people could do in theater. I was not exposed to, Brecht as a study. And I started reading about it then, because the play was very strange, where the director would keep coming in, and it was a play within a play, and I had never seen that style before, and it really intrigued me it really forced me into being a director because I wanted to achieve something that special. And when Paul had agreed that I directed with my students, I was honored, and because he wrote it with Mr. Scavi, it's a very beautiful play that taught me how to treat someone else's work that you didn't write yourself, and also just to try and see what the writer was thinking, or sometimes disagreeing with them, saying, "Okay, this is written this way, but I want to direct it this way." That, yeah. So that's where I learned. It's still the most beautiful student production I've ever done so far, and the talent that I was doing that with have gone on also to do amazing big things in the industry. So it's a special memory in Taresha.
Oh wow. What's Mother Courage?
Mother Courage is a play by Brecht. Like I said, the, I developed an interest towards Brecht as a study because there's a thing, and there's this his opposition to realism in theater, that people are not necessarily coming to theaters to feel. Or, people must come into the auditorium to reason with themselves, to look at art and not feel or not be emotionally attached to it, but to look at it critically and look at themselves as a society. So when I was reading more and more about Brecht, I came across that play, and I loved the play. And I also had a pool of actors who I knew were much capable of doing such a heavy play. It was 3 hours long. It was quite hectic, but they pulled it through. And my assistant director in that play was the late Boo. We really worked well together, and I think without him, it's a play I know he sort of couldn't have achieved. But every time I was not in, he was there, just hammering the process into the actors, and it was a very special achievement that we had together, him and I.
Oh wow. I never met him, but I've seen some of his work.
Yes, he's an
he's
amazing. He was an amazing young man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is Her Children?
It's the same thing. So the play is Mother Courage and
Her Children.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was different ones.
No, it's Mother Courage and the Children. So it's one play just based on war. This woman who survives through, it's like she's a businesswoman in war times. So the only time she's in business is when there's war. But this very same war that costs her children one by one throughout the play. So she loses all of them. But she's someone who profits off the war. It's a very beautiful play. If you could
I
read
think
it.
you mentioned it in the beginning of our classes last year.
Yes.
I think, yeah.
It's a beautiful play. If you read it, if you enjoy reading plays, that's one to read as well.
Oh wow, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Please tell me about the movement.
The movement is one that's I adapted that play from Antigone. Antigone is written by Sophocles, and it's a Greek tragedy. So I took that and adapted it into modern South Africa, where the plot there is, this woman whose brother has been killed, and she wants to bury his body, but because in the Greek times, in those times, in ancient times, the worst punishment for someone was their body to be left there to be eaten by vultures and whatever. So this woman is on the verge of wanting to bury a brother for to honor the man, and obviously then there's a decree that no one should touch that body, no one should bury him, but she does. So in the movement, this was loosely based on the lives of Julius Malema when he was expelled from the movement. But it's not fully based on the characters truthfully, but it's inspired by him as a person, and how this Winnie Mandela-like character fought for him and really just built a relationship with him, understood that this is the future of South Africa. This was a young man who couldn't just be thrown into the vultures like that. So then I devised a play from that, and we see politically how this woman helps him through, and how he rises from being expelled to being what he is today. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I came to Joburg late. I missed out on a lot
No,
of
don't worry.
good things.
There's plays for your times. And plays that's the nice thing about plays. You can always source them. You can always find the writers. You can always read them for yourself. So yeah, but that's a play I intend to develop further and do, again sometime next year and just keep doing it.
Please, would love
Yeah.
to see it. Tell me about Infidel.
That's a very old play that I don't want to talk about.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, that's the first play I wrote actually, that I wrote the scene for and showed to Anne and he loved it. And it was a very beautiful play. But I was living in Sunnyside and it was like 30 people in one flat. Sunnyside had those kind of issues. It was a 3-bedroom apartment and we had beds in the lounge. Like, there was a lot of us. So every time I wanted to escape that world, I would just sit down and write. That's how I wrote The Infidel. And I think for people to start taking me serious as a person is, they saw some moments from that. But generally, as a play, when I read it and I feel I was very young. It's it's a very sketchy play, and the name itself, I hated it. So it's one of those things. It's bittersweet. I love having written it, but every time I read it, I'm like, really, it's not my best work.
Yeah, okay, but you're still young and you're still learning and you're
Yeah,
still
true.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
true.
I'm sure there's a lot of things that I'm writing or doing right now that I will look at in 10 years from now and I'll be like,
And
what were you
yeah,
thinking?
and it doesn't get better. Sometimes you write something this week, next week, it feels very terrible to you.
True.
But it's you get used to it.
That's true. Please tell me about In Their Words.
Yeah, that's also a play I'm still writing. So I did a reading of it first with friends. Just brought them together. We did a staged reading. I
Okay.
haven't really staged it, but I'm still writing it. It's the play that I want to develop into 3 acts.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's still a writing process.
No problem. We are looking forward to it. And how is it like staging Paradox of Life?
Uh, oh yes, so now this is me as the artistic director of the Teen Town Theatre.
Yes.
I wanted to really just explore just get the space out there. People in Mafikeng must know there's a theater in Joburg called the Teen Town Theatre. People from different provinces.
Yes.
So I thought the best thing to do is to look for plays
Okay.
from my hometown. So, Kumo, who was directing that play, used to be my teacher in Mabana. She was a part-time teacher, but sometimes she would come to the full-time classes. So, I've always liked her. Obviously, I was influenced by them when we were still young. So, yeah, I called her and invited her play to come and do it. Then they took care of some of the cost. But that really was the first interprovincial thing we've done as a theatre. And as a result, every year we do at least 2 or 3 plays from outside Gauteng just to get the space out there.
That's really, really nice. And then what's the process of actually staging a play?
Yeah. Well, it's a different process for different people. But I know, because I'm someone who writes and directs, so the first thing obviously would be to write. And now I have the pleasure of writing with specific actors in mind, because already there's a pool of actors you always call and they will come and do a project with you. So when I'm done writing, the first thing I do is call actor friends to just come sit together and read the play and see how it sounds and get a feel of it. And then but in that process I'm also casting for the play to see if what I've written for this person is really working out in that reading. So, and then I go and do a staged reading with those actors and still do selections as to, am I going to keep this actor in the full stage? Am I going to keep that actor? And yeah, and then we go into rehearsals, preferably about 4 weeks of rehearsals. And on the first week of rehearsals, then I involve my other team, the crew. I'll get a lighting designer of choice. I usually get someone who can design set and lights together, so it's one person. And we sit through rehearsals and they read the script and we develop a visual concept together throughout that 4 weeks. And leading to the staging. Yeah, and I also get a firm stage manager to come and see, to boss or everyone around, including me, to really make sure the project is focused and the work gets done. So that's essentially my process. That's how I cast people. A lot of them I've already thought about them, but when we do readings, that's when I decide for sure this is the person I'm gonna cast for this production or not.
Okay, and then before you became the artistic director of Teen Town,
Yes.
you were staging plays.
Yes.
There's someone out there who does not have any kind of connection to a theater or an establishment.
Yeah.
How do you get your play to be staged? Say you've written something, you have something, and you just want to stage it somewhere, and you don't really know what to do, who to talk to, or how to go about it.
I get that. I mean, for some years I was also like that. So, but I find the best thing to do is be part of festivals. There's a lot of festivals that take in productions. So every time you come together with your group, I think the first thing you must master, just find a way to develop a community for yourself, like 3 or 4 people that you can sit together and read plays with, and eventually start doing plays together. With investing in one another, because if you're alone, a play is something really impossible to do. But if you develop that community and you guys start doing plays together and be part of as many festivals as you can, I know how with the play I was talking about, the Infidel, I used to go into festivals with it. I was in those times only a lot of festivals like Stop Crime Drama Festival, Ishashalazi Festival, Zwagala Festival. So the more you keep showcasing your plays in those festivals, the more people start to see you and start to wonder about your voice. If it's good, someone will call you in, someone will stage your production. But now, theater is not as conventional as it used to be. People develop alternative spaces, and really just, if you want your work out there, even if you find a garage somewhere, just stage your production, and you never know who might be in the audience who's going to help you out in your theater career. But yeah, I can imagine how difficult it is to be outside really freelancing and wanting to get, but festivals are the go-to.
It's true. Thank you, because it is tricky when you because there was this festival that was happening at the market now,
Yes.
and it was so there was 2 festivals. So the Art Cave was collaborating with the Market Theatre, and then there was the one year the Market Theatre.
Yes.
So the one year the Market Theatre was saying it's open to anyone, but you need to have been active in the theater space. Like you need to be active in a theater space. And then the one year at Cave, to make it a bit different, they said you need to have had graduated from a theater or performing arts thing within the past 5 years. So it's like some people have not had like the privilege to be part of maybe the market or even any other institution to study, but they love this thing, they're doing it, and they just want to learn. So sometimes it becomes tricky
Difficult
when
to
there's those
get
kind
into
of
it.
limitations.
Yeah.
But I like what you're saying about even if it's a garage, I do believe in starting with what you have. Start where you are with what you have.
Definite. So, but I mean, I understand why sometimes institutions will do that. We also have to filter through, people who are really committed to the arts. We find how if I get funding and I do this project and I do a public call, people who are not really full-time artists, people who really are taking chances, then just come into that program, benefit from it, to do nothing with it in the future. So sometimes it's important to narrow down the selection process to really be sure that the people you have, the people who have access to the resources, are people who are going to stay in the arts and develop the arts further, people who are going to use those skills to practice in the arts. So it's a very tricky thing. I understand why they do that, but like I'm saying, if you go from festival to festival, you learn. And also, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. Just join a training program anywhere you can, and just be part of it, even if it's for a year. Learn how things work, learn the industry. As you go around watching plays with your peers, you develop that community that I'm talking about. Then you will come together and create something. And
That's
school
true.
is always the best way to start in anything.
That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please take me through the process of the exports and Primal.
Yeah, those were also student productions, but Primal I did premiered in Grahamstown, and then I did it again at the State Theatre for about 4 days in what we call the incubator program. That program was really to bridge, to be sure that the person who's doing this play from here on are in the mainstream and they understand. So they gave us funding directly to really produce a play from the beginning. So I wrote a lot of drafts with Primal, and until it became what it was in finality. But it's a play that went through a lot of drafts, and it's a play that I still also want to do. But yeah, that's I did that in 2016. It was first production really I produced as an independent production company with resources and money, and I paid actors and learned the business of what it means to run a production house. Yeah.
Oh wow. And what is your why?
My why.
Yes.
Look, that question changes every time someone asks me, or the answer to that question changes. Because, it used to be just what I know about the world and what I have to offer the world. But, I've grown to have a family, I've got a lot of other reasons why I do things. So it's very difficult to say, this is
This
the one
one
thing
thing,
that
yeah.
I do it for. But I guess with art, for me, it's just personal sanity. It gives me a certain drive that nothing else can. So that's why I do art. There's this personal sanity that I chase every time I express myself artistically. Every time I achieve something great with my artwork, I understand why I'm doing this. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's true. I feel like with me also, because
Yeah.
my mom has this thing of, you had good grades, like do this, do that. You need to go find a job. You need to, but it's just like I don't feel complete. I don't feel like there's just
If you're not practicing that, I
yes,
can totally imagine. It's funny how people say you've got good grades. Everyone who does art is wasting their
exactly,
brains.
and
But
it's not
it's
even
not
like
the
that.
case. Yeah,
Yes, it's not even like
true.
that. I feel like that's another reason why I started this podcast, because I feel like as much as us as artists who are upcoming and still young are finding it difficult to get into the industry, it's
Yeah.
also difficult because like we don't really have an audience, because the people that are not the artists don't understand the art, so they can't support the art. So if they can't support the art, they can't support you, so you can't
True.
lead you can't
I
really live
I can
with it.
imagine.
So if like there's a bigger community and like you have the supports that you need from just people, whether family or friends, it becomes a bit
Easier
easier
for you to do
to,
it. No,
yes.
true. I agree with you 100%.
Please take me through the campaign that you did with the Department of Trade Industries, the HIV campaign that you
Oh
did.
yes. Phew. My first touring venture. So was that where I developed a play. The department was introducing the tags. I don't know if you know what a tagging thing is, but when someone is on parole now, they will put a bracelet on
Oh
their.
yes.
And I think that was introduced for the first time in South Africa, and so we had to do plays and teach parolees how to live with that, and parole officers how to monitor them, how to install them, how to treat them. So we were touring around South African prisons doing that play. It was an industrial play in actual fact. So, but that project is what really got me to see the entire South Africa. So, there isn't a province I haven't been to, a city I haven't been to because of that play. We were doing it in so many prisons, but we were merely introducing that tagging system between the prisoner and the parolee and the parole officer.
Oh wow. And I think that's really nice, and it just goes to show how powerful art
Art
is.
is, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It was so informing. What people would immediately understand, because
Yes.
in an industrial theater, will explain the rules, will dramatize the actions, how to treat this, and so it was very interesting for people to see themselves and see this is how I'm going to behave from
Yes.
here on. So it's a very very effective change management tool to use if I know industrial theaters are used a lot of. If you have insubordinate staff, if you have corruptions within an organization, you can use industrial theaters to really
Yes.
inform people, to mirror them, to see how they act, how the world sees them. So yeah, it's a very effective method in terms of change management.
That's true. And I think schools should apply something like that as well, because we have plays in schools and they are so difficult to like understand and to
True,
just like
true.
be able to to get them in the sense
Yes.
that you can put it all down in an exam, and it's just like they just read that to you, and
And it's, other schools, other advanced schools,
they do
they
that.
do that.
Yes.
For the private education, will always beat because then they will have set works. You know, these children can see this entire. I know my first set work was Julius Caesar that I saw, and you know it explained the book so much for me because even when you're reading, you still have a memory of those actors.
Yes.
So it's very easy to examine a student who's seen the set work and not only have read the book. Because you know, if you're reading a play in a period of 2 weeks, it's not the same. You don't grasp that knowledge the same way you would if you were watching it live. So, you know, some schools do it, but it's very effective. That's why theaters are very effective.
I know a few people that are teachers that I have good relationships with. I think
Yes.
we should actually have these kind of discussions. The school that I went to, when I got the grade 10, I started an art group. We were acting, we were doing all of that. And I was learning from like my community because there were art groups where where I'm from. So I was learning what they were doing, and then I would come to school and teach these kids and everyone else who I was going to school with. And they loved it. We all had something to do. We fell in love with it. And then others even started dreaming of like acting on TV and things like that. And it just changed. And I can only imagine if we had that's like maybe run by a teacher and not
Definitely.
another learner, and
Definitely.
even like our English books, our English short stories and plays that we were reading, if we were just told as a class you need to maybe act this out, learn the lines,
Absolutely.
learn
Yes.
whatever,
Yes.
us coming together to just put out one thing, I think
Yeah.
it would have changed a lot.
And yeah, those are the kind of things I want to open up the space for also for next year. You know, I also just want to host people having conversations about things. You know, just come together, sit and talk. You know, about it could be about anything as long as there's black people in one room discussing progress. You know,
And we
in the
really need
arts, for
that.
education, for health, for many other
Literally
reasons.
everything, yeah.
That's what I want to open the space up for next year, especially
Please.
for young people. You know, where you could just come in and say, "Hey, I need a weekend to do this," without us
Yes.
charging you a lot of money. But obviously, we must pray we get funding, so you know we keep the space open.
We are praying because I feel like
Long enough.
conversations are like a solution to everything. Like they might not maybe get rid of the problem, but they help you to even find solutions to the problem. Because we as black people we grow up in households where you don't talk, you don't like there's just no conversations. It's just I'm the parent, you're the kid, that's it. Know
That's
your
true,
place, that's it.
and we really could have learned relationships from there.
Yes.
You know,
A lot of things.
I
Quite a
guess
lot of things.
you know some people breakthroughs are difficult because of that what that has created.
Yes.
It's difficult to really reach out and ask for
Yes,
help
true.
and talk to people and say, "Hey, I'm doing this. Please help me out." When you invite someone into your space, there's always this burden of, are they gonna like this? Are they gonna
Yes.
feel? So we really didn't learn relationships from then. The children were raised to differently, and you know they get into a room and people are just people.
can tell,
There's
yeah.
no fear of
Yes.
oh, this person is on this level, I'm not. So I think that's what created the way we think, the way we procrastinate getting help from people who are higher than us, because you know there's a fear that's placed between us and
Yes.
those people, and it's
We really do need conversations, and thank you in advance. Thank you in advance.
no,
It's gonna
definitely you're
happen.
most welcome to come into the space and do the thing.
Please and thank you. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it's also gonna just solve a lot of things, like in the society, because people keep things bottled deep down, and then they project, and then there's just like a whole lot of mess. But if we normalize having conversations and just talking and just saying, "Hey, dude, I'm going through this, or this and this happened, or I'm thinking of starting this, or I'm starting of doing
Yeah,
that,"
yeah.
and it'd be like a normal thing. I think.
Especially in this, in the wake of what's going on with
Yes.
society today. There's
That's
a
true.
lot of mental health issues
Yes.
that some people don't even understand. I don't think I fully understand mental wellness to a level where I should, because I manage people, I work with people, we invite people into our space. So I sort of feel like there's a mandatory skills that people need to learn as far as mental wellness is concerned. But we get there.
Yeah,
We'll get
slowly but surely. And I like how I feel like I always love it when it is us who are creating these things, because I feel like we for the longest time we've had the mentality of we identify the problem and then that's it. We're like, we need spaces and then that's it, but we don't create those spaces for
That's
ourselves. We
true.
don't.
Yeah,
So it's very nice when you meet someone who's going to be like, we need conversations, so we want to start
absolutely.
something
Yeah,
like
no,
this.
we are very much open for that. It's important.
And how is it like working with companies, organizations, and government departments that are not part of the arts?
Uh, it's easier,
Yeah.
because you get to drive the project the way
Okay.
you want with your experience,
Yes.
and there's a lot of room that people give you in terms of creation. So it's much easier than to create for institutions that are art based, because then they have what they want, you have what you want. So there's always going to be compromises in between there. Whereas when you're doing an industrial play for a department of trade industry, it's or department of correctional services, it's your creation, it's your artwork. They
Yes.
don't have much to say as long as the sort of notes that they want, the information that they want in the players,
Yes.
they
In the
don't care.
yes.
So I find it's a very interesting way of, as far as art is concerned, you are where everything stops. So it's nice to be in that situation where the product is controlled by you as a person. It's not gonna be, you know watered down or restructured by someone else.
Oh. Do you think it's important to like register a company if you want to be in the arts, especially if like maybe you want to produce whether
Yeah.
film or theater?
Definitely, you have to be. Everyone wants to work with a registered entity, and I feel like the sooner you do it, the better, because in the future you want to have a company that has a track record. So you want to operate as a company, especially
Yeah.
if you're freelancing. There's benefits to it. You have to create a company and then employ yourself in that company, pay yourself. When you get 200,000, you don't blow it out. It's in the company
Yes.
that gives you a certain salary. I had John Kani give this advice also, and I couldn't agree more. You Then your life doesn't fluctuate with your freelancing. That you have, your company takes all the jobs. You schedule things, you run yourself like a business professional, because you are employed by your own company, and you're creating a nice track record for yourself and for your work. It's just easier. Like I said, institutions are likely to collaborate with a registered entity than you as a person. I don't think theaters want this particular theater in collaboration with Tshepo Ratona. It's easier when it's a
Yes.
registered entity.
It's reliable also.
Yeah,
You
it's
can just like pick it
absolutely,
up
yeah.
and
And you can judge the growth of that company, and
yes.
realize if there's a work ethic of that team. And as you grow as a star, as you become bigger, and you need to hire people around you to help to make your work easier, it's then easier to employ them through that company. But everything is just administered well.
Oh wow. That's very great advice. That I will definitely apply with myself as well.
Yeah, so register something and be
I
an
will.
entity.
I will. But I want to wait a little because I feel like now I'm not at the point where I'm like making that kind of money that can pay taxes and
Yeah.
sustain like
Yeah, but
a
what
business.
a company, sometimes all it takes to keep it in business registered, it's like 150 that you pay annually to either uh, CIPC, or you file with SARS. Even if you made no amount of money, you just keep filing. But what that does for you is that then the company's existence in years means something with later. People want to work with a company that was established in 2010 as opposed to a company that was established just yesterday. There's a lack of trust. So you can't register a new company and then go on to do uh, a contract of about 2 million in the
Yeah.
coming week. No one's gonna trust you. So when you've built, when you've learned throughout the years in your company, even if you're making 20 rands, you're making 100 rand, managing your management there,
counts.
that counts. The existence, the number of years this company has been alive counts when people want to collaborate with you.
Thank you so much for this, because this is the kind of information that we don't get
Yeah.
anyway. Like, you
Yeah.
don't really get this information
True.
anyway. And I
Yeah.
was having, I think last week, because I was working at Basha Uhuru, so there was some of the people that I was working there with. I was like, I actually want to like register a company, because I have this podcast. It could be under it. And then when it starts monetizing, also, like, you know, those things, they were like, nah, don't do that. Taxis, a lot of taxes. And it's like we get these advices from people that don't have companies themselves. So we don't get the right information. You see, just like now you're saying you can, even if you're not making anything, you can pay that 150 or whatever. And it's just like that's something you can do yearly. It's not
true.
impossible.
Yeah.
And it becomes easier to apply for other things. There was a guy who was here also. He registered his own company, and now he's getting international sponsorship because he has a company.
True. So the sooner you do it, the better. Also, taxes, whether you are registered or not registered, as long as you are alive as a person, you're making some money, you're gonna pay taxes. So it's just get a company. Sometimes, you know, there's tax brackets, and you know, you don't start off just every time you earn something you have to pay a heavy tax. Sometimes people don't pay tax because they don't fall into, you know, a taxable bracket. But I know when I invoice people with my company, they don't tax me. So if I have a job and they're paying me 30,000, and if I invoice them with my company, they give me my full 30,000 rand, and then I'll just manage my company in the year. What's the turnover? How much tax do I owe? Sometimes you find that 30 grand is the only thing you know. Yeah, so you don't. There's no way of evading tax. Just get registered, and you know it's easier even for you sometimes where it's unnecessary to pay these heavy taxes. People can give you your money straight to you, and you'll deal with SARS yourself. So sometimes that's what I do when I have these big jobs, especially in writing. If they've employed me as a company, it's easier for me to manage my own taxes, but get all my money. Sometimes people prefer that the companies that employs them deal with the taxes and all that, deduct the tax, and they don't want to get into it. But I feel like, you know, sometimes you take advantage of the system.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tshepo.
Yeah.
This is really, thank you. And why do you think it's important to use art for more than just entertainment?
Because you know, as you said, art is more than just entertainment. I don't think we do what we do just for the sole purpose of entertaining people.
True.
You know, we we do it to educate people, to heal people, to have a conversation with, you know, people's souls more than just, you know, at face value. We have to use art for almost everything. If I had my way, would use art even in certain subjects that you are unheard of in school, to say we can really drive. Everyone is an artist until they decide they're not. You know, we are born artists until you decide, oh, I'm an accountant actually, or I'm a.
True.
But everyone has in their life at some point excelled in something artistic, or, you know, whether in sport or whatever. But mainly people excel in so many artistic stuff. You will find there are talented musicians who are now police officers, talented people.
Yes.
So art is a universal language. So that's what I'm saying. What we do is not just for entertainment. If we can use art as a medium of communication more than anything, that, you know, for me, that's a healthy society.
I feel like this is another reason why we need conversations, because I feel like us as artists, we need to have this kind of conversation, because some of us just want to be on stage, perform that poem or sing that song, and then have people clap for you and scream, and then that's it. But it's not really about that. And when you make it about that, people make it about that. They make it, no, it's just a one Sunday a year I'll go and see this poetry thing, or I'll go and see this.
Yeah.
So they don't really understand that the art is for them as much as it is for us.
Definitely, that's very true.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Please tell me about your partnership with the Engineering System Solutions and the Chief Deputy Commissioner of Correctional Services.
Yeah, that was
And
the same industrial I was telling you about of prisons. And
so, yes,
yeah,
is that the play that you guys created?
yes.
Okay, because that's
So Engineering System Solutions is a company that had employed us because they were the tender, if I
oh, they were
were
the
to say,
one making the actual.
making the
Okay.
technical aspects of
Yes.
everything.
Okay.
So we were doing the information drive with them.
Oh
But they were
wow.
the software developers of that thing, of how it worked, how you monitor
Yes.
it, how you see it. So that's why they called us to give us all this information on how this thing
Okay.
works, and then we create a play from that.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. And that thing, I didn't even know that we have it in South Africa because I only
Yeah,
see it in movies.
we do. I mean, it's not. I don't think we have enough resources for the
Okay.
coverage because we've got a lot of people in prisons.
Yes.
But there are people who go on parole and have a bracelet fitted on their thing. I don't know if it's cancelled now, but I know how in South Africa we did. They wanted to start with about first 5,000 when we were doing that drive, going in and tagging people, as a pilot to see if this thing's gonna work out. And they had good results. You can monitor uh, someone from a computer from the offices, a parolee. You can see that they are not violating their parole
Yes.
conditions. You can monitor them without constant visits because that used to be a problem.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's progress actually.
it is.
So you were one of the mentor directors in creating 30 Plays for 30 Homes. What was
Oh
that?
yeah, there was a thing that started in Brazil as they called it the home theater.
Okay.
So it was a very nice experiment that was done by the state theater. I know we would have 30 actors. So they will come into your house, sit with you, talk to you, either speak to you about your greatest moment or your tragic moment, whatever it is that you want, whatever information you have, you want to give to someone else to create a play for you. So they would do that. Every household will send an actor, and they will take the family story or whatever it is, and then create a play. And the only audience, the only people who are going to see that play, is those people, and they can invite whether their friends, their families, to come and see their story life created for them. It was a very good project.
Oh wow. Is
So
it still we need it?
yeah, we do. So I don't think they do it anymore, but we did it in that year for like 30 homes. It was a very powerful experience. So these actors will go into 30 different homes then doing that process, and we call that house, the host will come to rehearsals and say, oh, this is true to my story, or this is not. And then you go and present it to their family and friends.
Oh wow. Like I have this thing of whenever I see someone, I'm just like, this is a story. And some of my friends don't really like that. So we were at Hallmark, there's that rooftop thing, and it was
Yes.
in the like nighttime. So the lights, it's very nice, you're seeing the apartments, the tall buildings. And I'm like, in like literally each and every light that you see is an apartment, and there's like 3 or 4 people there, and they all have different stories.
Absolutely.
Like those are just
Yeah.
like real stories that we don't even see on TV.
That we never even gonna experience or hear about,
Ish.
So additionally, though, that project was also to encourage people going to theater, people really finding this medium
Oh
of
wow.
entertainment and getting used to it. So with enough funding, with enough resources, I'm sure the state theater would have loved to really take it, you know, to expand it to different provinces, to more homes, to reach out to more people. But obviously, it's straining in terms of resources.
Yeah,
Because,
I know. But I hope
yeah,
we I don't know, we kind of develop something like that, because I feel like there's a lot of stories that are not being told. Like
absolutely, yeah,
when you're watching TV and there's just that background Baba that is cutting hair on the street, he has a story, he has a family, he has a background, he went to school, he did something, maybe he was dancing
of course,
somewhere, but we never hear those kind of stories. We hear, okay, the stories, this one and this one, just the main characters, but there's just a lot of stories as South Africans that we are not telling.
absolutely, and I feel like that's why we live in a society. A lot of people feel unseen and unheard, and
Yes,
because
yes.
even if you watch our recklessness in how we create television now, we just keep rotating around the same issues, same stories, same issues, same stuff. So the society then repels to that. They don't look at art and feel, this is something that could change or shape how they think.
Yes.
It's dismissible as, oh, there's a criminal who's gonna kill the other criminal. We're always telling the same story.
True, and then there's a slave queen. There's a
but it's a growing industry. I feel in the coming years, more people will come in and we'll learn how we can try out different stories.
I really, really hope so. I really hope so, because we do need to tell these stories. How is it like being an acting coach?
It's a terrible it's a terrible job. Mainly because it's I mean, I don't hate it. I'm just saying it's terrible because you deal with a lot of actors. I mean, in my years of teaching, of being an acting coach, I've grown to hate the job because of, I don't know, man. I don't even know if I should say it, but it's almost meeting someone in their most humble moment and then growing with them and seeing them transition into something else good. Then the results of good coaching turns this person into something they
You don't recognize.
It's an interesting phenomena that, as an acting coach, I've seen. When I started with this actor, this is where we're going. And I don't know, perhaps maybe we need to encourage building a team around this person as they grow. But as an acting coach alone, you can't do it.
Yes.
You can really only teach this person how to
act.
Yeah, you can't even teach them how to act. You can guide their instincts and guide their acting choices and whatever. But the better they become, the more terrible the job becomes. I'm yet to work with a star I like.
I understand. And I feel like with even other different things, I feel like, I don't know, as people, we kind of have this thing of, when we feel better, then we think we are better than the person that helped us to be better.
True.
Which doesn't make sense. So
like I'm saying, it used to be a very nice job, but I enjoy it in development. It's a different story. When I'm dealing with professional actors, it's always something that I don't want to do even anymore. But when in development, this harnessing and really training an actor to becoming a young, strong contender in the industry, it's an enjoyable process. But being a coach in the way, hey, I have to do this rather to earn some money, to whatever. It's
very tricky.
It's a tricky job.
Please take me through the journey of producing The Princesses of Askishem Streets by Usisko Green.
Oh yes, I love that play.
I do too.
I read it, and in fact, I read some of it, and I forced her to finish writing it. And I kept hounding her about it. And it was when Teen Town started, it was one of the first plays we did a reading for. And I knew that I will produce this play one day. And I kept on talking to certain actors about it. And I spoke to Tshepo about it. And we've always worked together well with Tshepo. And she was game. There was, it had, in the first reading, there was two people who were different in the cast. We had Mbali then and Kidiboni. I also spoke to them about the play, and they came together and they said to Kuchu, don't worry about a lot of things. I'll bring together everything. And then we did a reading, and then I really, really loved the play. And I went to look for funds at the NAC, got money for it, and we did the play. And it was the first play to have that Naledi recognition, to get us nominations,
well
to
deserved,
put us on the spot. Yeah, it's a very good play.
It is.
I loved it. It's one of the things that I'm very proud to have produced as the theater, or as a person, myself. It's a very good play that I saw from concept to production.
Oh wow. Yeah. I really hope it's gonna come back again. Like it was amazing. Like
we'll surely do it. There's more of a plays that I want to do, but we'll definitely do that play.
Please.
We need to tour it around a bit.
Please. Because I have this thing of, as when I was growing up, I was like, I want to be an actor. And then the more I grew up, I got to understand that I want to be behind the scenes. Actually, I
That's
love that.
cool.
But with the little experiences that I got with acting and all the friends that I have that are actors, they always emphasize one thing. But when you're part of a play, just play. And we princesses of Askish, that's what I saw. They were just there and they were just playing. It was
True,
effortless. It was
true.
just, oh my
They were
goodness.
very
It
good
was really
actors
beautiful.
as well. She had a
Yes.
very
Yes.
good cast.
True.
No, I completely get you.
And how was it like producing Indugu by Ayabonga Makai?
Yeah, it was under the same. So I did a creative hub. In this creative hub, I wanted to get four artists working in the space, like a residency sort of. So they come here every day, you give them a desk, they, run their productions from there. And then we document the process of rehearsals from them writing into rehearsals, getting the actors for them, getting resources for them. So it was four plays. It was Induku, it was The Princesses of Haskisham Street, it was Ikaslamaka, Jeff, and then it was The Tragedy of Samuel Omunye. Although with
Yes.
The Tragedy of Samuel Omunye, it was a play that was developed elsewhere. It was, I think he started it at the TX Theatre. So it was coming in as sort of a guest production because I saw it and I liked it. And I liked the actors in it. I liked James and Tabang. Thought,
Yes, it
they're
is a
really
very
good.
strong
Yeah.
performance, yes.
So I brought them in and we did these four plays all at once under the Creative Hub at the Tin Town. Yeah.
That was last year, I think March
It was
or April.
2021. Yeah.
Yes.
May.
May,
In
yes.
May,
I
yeah.
think I watched 3 out of 4. I only missed Ikasla Makas.
Oh,
But the
yes.
other 3 I did watch, and it was a very beautiful
Yeah, it was a very
experience.
tight mini festival. I loved that. And we, obviously, the dramaturge there, Katlego Charlie, was also amazing. Just to see him working from one play to the other is someone I really like working with. We had a group of good people in that festival. So, yeah, it was my proudest moment of 2021.
Oh, wow.
Was creating those plays.
And then, what is motion art production? What does it do?
That's my film company. So everything that's for television, that's film, I do it via Motion Art Productions, and including the teaching the lessons and the drama classes that we have. That's through Motion Art Productions. That's a company I'm a sole director of. So then in the Tin Town, I've got a team of people. So I bring in my company. And one of my partners also has a music company. So when they do operas and whatever, they bring it through their companies. So for me to have Motion Art Productions and the Tin Town Theatre is to really always know how to separate the two formats. So I know when I'm dedicating this year to really making progress in theatre in my career and really creating highlights. And then this other particular year, I'll focus on making films and applying through this company. So I just, they're both my companies, but I like to separate them like that to know when I'm making films, when I'm doing anything film related, this is Motion Art Productions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then, what advice do you have for someone who wants to make a living from art?
Just start doing it. Greatest advice is don't be someone by just saying you are. If you're an actor and you go 3 months without acting, you run into problems. Just act everywhere, even if you sometimes it's just for yourself. Even if you're just going from one audition to the other, if you treat those auditions as like special little shows that you go and perform in. And so I say do it, start doing it, do it every day so it becomes an organic part of you. It's something you can do either under pressure or under critical conditions that this is something that is second nature to you now. So the more you do it, but that's the only time I think you are likely to make a living out of it. When it's that simple for you to do, when you don't want to kill yourself every time you have to do it. It's difficult, I know, but I think if you want to make a career out of it, you have to do it every day until it's your second nature.
Oh, that's really, really good advice. I have a friend who he paints, and he paints literally every day. Like it's almost as if he's going to like a 9 to 5
That's
job.
good. So he creates like a huge archive, and
Yes.
that's admirable. I know her. With her art, here's why I admire people who can paint, and because with them, every time they want to do their art, it's just a matter of getting paint and canvas. With us, it's always involving other people from one set.
You can't do
You have
it
to
by
get this,
yourself.
you have to get this, you have to. But I encourage you to really just keep trying to do it as often as you can. That's the only time you'll stand a chance to making a living out of it.
Oh, that's really good advice for me. I'm getting quite a lot of advices
Yeah.
today. Yo,
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of advices.
True, because the trouble with not doing it every day, there's people who get breakthroughs and for some reason you just cannot deliver
Yeah.
because you're not used to doing
Yes.
this thing. You don't do it enough. So imagine getting a job and here are the resources. Finally, someone gives you a shot, say do it, and you're out of practice. You're not. You probably never get the job.
Again, yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself professionally in the next 5 years?
Because I have companies now, I judge my growth as a person through them.
Yes.
But I really want to see the Tin Town Theatre with a really strong team, number one. In the next 5 years, I really want to see it fully established with a functioning system that I no longer have to worry about overheads and where am I going to get money to pay salaries, where am I going to get funding. That's one thing I want to see for the space in the next 5 years. And I also want to see it produce work at ease, man. If we could produce about 20 plays every year, 20 solid good plays every year, and we've created a structure that allows that sees us through, that would be lovely for the Tin Town Theatre in the next 5 years. And then in my film production, in motion art productions, what I really want to see is a bigger slate.
Yes.
I want to, I want to really get in the habit of making at least 2 short films every year, and really grow the slate of theatre. So in the next 5 years, I see motion art production with this beautiful slate of films that we have created, that we have done, even if they are short films, but we've made them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I have 4 quick questions. Don't overthink them. Favorite production you've been a part of?
Shucks. The movement.
Okay. What usually inspire you?
What I know about people and the world, the things that I find out about the world every day, those things keep me inspired, keeps me wanting to create art more.
Okay. 2 people you wish to work with?
Local or international.
It doesn't matter.
I really want to somehow find my way to work with Dr. John Kani. Just be in his presence, to work with him. And yeah. And shucks, who else? Wow. I don't know. This is a long shot, but I really, really want to shadow, if in the list, shadow Martin Scorsese as a filmmaker. I really want to,
I feel like the moment we put it out there in the universe,
Absolutely.
it happens. It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
The
those are
universe
the
is
2
working on it now.
people I want to work with.
Yeah. Soon it's gonna happen. One prayer that must be answered.
One prayer.
Yes.
There's a lot of them. Okay, one prayer that should definitely be answered is I want to live long enough to see my potential through. Yeah.
Okay, that is really good. And how do people see your work or get in contact? Social.
Yeah, the Tin Town Theatre .com. That's our website, and the Tin Town Theatre NPC. That's our Facebook page. The Tin Town Theatre on Instagram, at Tin Town Theatre on Twitter. So we always have announcements there. We post the things that we're going to do on our website. You can just check us out. Send us an email if you want to stage something there. If you want to come and experiment with the work, if you want to do a reading, if you want to have conversations, just send us an email at info@tintowntheatre.com.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. And that's it for today. So today we had one of the people that contributed to where I am that I really, really look up to. Thank you so much for coming, Tshepo.
You're
It really
welcome.
means
Thank
a
you for
lot.
having me.
Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Please make sure that you tune in next week, Thursday, for another episode. Please make sure that you subscribe, like, share, and comment. If you would like to advertise your product or brand, do send us an email. If you're looking to find a community or to collaborate, please send us an email. The email is mamaforwork@gmail.com, which is MAMMA, the number 4work@gmail.com. This is Umama Wizizwe Sibia, and I hope I am leaving you with a heart full of heart.